My name is Derek Green. I am an art teacher at Central Academy for Des Moines Public Schools. I teach International Baccalaureate Visual Arts for 11th and 12th grade, and then I also teach pottery, mostly throwing. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about TAB, which is Teaching for Artistic Behavior. And also, if you're talking about TAB, you also hear choice a lot. So choice-based art education is when you give your students as many choices as you can in the project. Some things that you might want to look up or you might hear is modified choice, limited choice, or just choice. Along with that comes something called TAB, which is Teaching for Artistic Behavior. And what that looks like in the low, like elementary school levels is, let's say an art teacher might have centers where their students come in, and let's say the first couple of weeks they might have a coloring center open or a marker center, like materials that hopefully the students already know a little bit about. And then they take a little bit of class instruction to open up a new center, to show a new center. So maybe it's going to be watercolor. So then that elementary school art teacher will demonstrate how to use watercolor, so on and so forth. And then that center's open. So then when the kids come back for the next class, they could choose the crayon center, the marker center, or the watercolor center. And this happens all year long. So eventually teachers are opening up a fiber center, a sculpture center with wood, all different types of materials. And the students come in and are working as real artists. They have their ideas in their heads. They're going to different centers. They know how to use the materials because they've been taught how to use the materials, and then they develop their own works of art. Now, side note, usually this artwork doesn't look like the pretty picture open house artwork, where sometimes all the artwork looks the same. But that's so much more. The kids are more invested in this artwork. They're learning really how to be artists, how to process as artists, and the journey of making mistakes and fixing them and coming up with an authentic work of art, which is really what we want artists and our students to do. What that looks in high school can be a variety of different things. For our studio, since it's mostly a pottery studio, we can't have, painting materials laying out in different centers and all this. So what I've done is I've taken tubs and I have placed, let's say all the watercolor materials in one tub. And so students go and get a tub of that material and bring it out to their seats, and then that goes back into our storage room just to keep the tools safe and out of the way when the potters are in here. I'm going to take you back into my back room and show you what that looks like. All right, so now we are in our studio storage room. And you can see everything is in boxes. Some of these boxes are things that students don't use. And everything's labeled, but let me point out to you here, for example. So this has a label like everything else, but on this label in yellow is written TAB. So students know this is where their boxes are. Now, when I first introduced this, we're calling it TAB Exploration. When I first introduced it to my students, I asked them, do you want me to just like hand you a box and you get what you get? Or do you want to pick out a box? And they all really just wanted to get handed a box and see what they got. So we do it on a week-to-week basis, but you could do something, like this would be on a 8-block rotation. So the student in this situation gets their box and they have it for a week. In larger groups, you could do, a table group would have that material for the week. They could work together on whatever expectations you set forth for them to do. But let me explain what ours looks like. So in each of the boxes, really, I just put everything material related in that box. There's not a whole class set in here. It's really just for either like a group of 5 or 6 students or individual students. So there's watercolor paper, there's watercolor crayons, there's masking tape, there's salt. Anything that I had laying around that could do with salt or do with watercolor is what I put in there. Now also in there is the sheet, which is the TAB Exploration sheet. This tells students exactly what's expected of them. And I'm just going to go over this quickly with you. So it's listed, the target is to explore the range and limits of this medium, its historical content, and create an authentic work of art. And then activities and evidence. Step 1 is the range and limits, which is mentioned in the target. They're going to find, watch, document, practice, and cite 3 material-related YouTube videos. Step 2, historical content. Find, research, document, compare, and cite 2 established artists from different time periods that use this material. And then step 3, authentic work of art. Now, we're not looking for like, you know, a portfolio ready work of art. We're looking for, let's say, maybe a 2-hour piece of art, 1-hour piece of art. Remember, this is just an exploration. What we're doing is we're filling their toolbox of materials and ideas and techniques and skills, so that then after this we can move to the next step in creativity. Okay, so that's where that is. And I'm just going to mention a couple things here. You know, it used to be, I've been teaching for 18 years. It used to be I gave my students the knowledge. I was the holder of all the knowledge, and they learned only from me and only from what I knew. But there's a lot I don't know. And so these days, students are getting their information from so many different outlets that really, 1, I can't compete, and 2, I feel like I'd be doing an injustice to my students if I only allowed them to get information from me. So my teaching looks a little bit different because I am not on this high school level presenting a material to my entire class. If they get the watercolor box, they're going to find instructional videos on the internet or on YouTube that they want to watch, that they want to learn from. And it's really cool because they're bringing back things to the class that I've never even seen before. Another cool aspect of that is it's really meeting the needs of each individual student. In the past, when I taught, I would teach the basics of watercolor, and anybody sitting in the class would have to listen, learn the basics, but some of these students already have the basics. They come to me with the basics and then some. And this way, for an example, the student who just got the watercolor box, she works in watercolors. That's what she does in her spare time. So she was able to go and find YouTube videos that wasn't the basics, that really met her at the level that she needed the instruction to be, which realistically, I wouldn't be able to do that on that level for every student. Now, historical content, compare the 2 different artists. I say established artists. And my kind of definition of that is either they've been published, or if they have, a lot of our students are watching or following artists on Instagram and other social media sites. I would say if they have 100,000 followers or more, I'm going to consider that an established artist. So a couple of definitions there for you, at least what we're using. I will link this someplace. You are more than welcome to use this, to adapt it. Again, this could be done in group work. It could be done individually. Totally up to you and what works for your class. So if you've pieced some things together, I'm actually not doing group class instruction anymore. The students are finding the information that they need. What is great about that is it allows me to actually work with my students as artists, to give them some one-on-one feedback, to really be active in their artist making process that they're personally going through, instead of me directing that process. So that's really fun. And with that one-on-one feedback and time for me to walk around and work with students one-on-one, there's an exciting aspect to the fact that I could also sometimes sit down and be an artist like them, working next to them. There's so much to be learned from students just being in the environment with an artist, seeing what you're doing, asking you questions. it really becomes a really exciting teaching opportunity. And gosh, we all know we should probably let loose and create a little bit more often. Okay, so let's talk about after tab, the exploration aspect. So for my group, the first 9 weeks, we are going to do explorations. I'm going to give them a box a week. Then I might give them 2 boxes a week. And then after that, the next phase will be challenges. So they will still be working with certain boxes or maybe a combination boxes, but then I'm going to give them a challenge. So maybe that challenge is a guiding question, something to kind of focus them a little bit more conceptually. So first we have the materials, and now we're bringing in the conceptual aspect of it. And then where we're really going to is them creating their own themes eventually, in order to create a cohesive body of work that is completely original and completely theirs. And I imagine that they're going to get sick of these boxes. They're going to have ideas that don't fit into these boxes, thank goodness. And they're maybe going to need to know how to do something that I don't know how to do, that's not in one of the boxes. But they'll have the tools to know how to go about and do that research in order to get them to the place that they need to be to make their authentic work of art. So I'm super excited about this year. Again, we're only in the first few weeks. We're still working on the assessment piece. When the assessment piece does get fully developed, I imagine sometimes it'll be self-assessment, sometimes it'll be peer assessment, and then sometimes I will assess it. My students are super excited about this. They are blown away. This is already how they're working in their private lives, and they're really embracing that being in the classroom. So if you have any questions, let me know. I am trying this out. I'm learning as we go. My students are learning as we go. But I hope that maybe some aspect of choice, or even going full tab or doing a unit on tab and see how it works for you and your students, is something you might be interested in. Thanks.